In today's video, I want to cover with you the steps that you should be taking at every stage in Arknights Endfield. We're just now heading into the third week, and as someone who has played consistently, I feel like each week has had its own clear goals and progression limitations. So if you have been unsure of where your resources and time should be going into, I've made this video to hopefully simplify things and point you in the right direction. So this video is going to cover what my personal tips are, what you should be looking to accomplish, and also what you should avoid to maximize your resources. It will not go over specific routines or systems in detail, especially if I've already gone through them before. So then let's not dilly-dally. This is everything you need to know right after this message from my sponsor, lootbar.gg. Lootbar is a recharge platform with cheap prices for buying your classic top-ups. They're giving out coupons for new users, and they have an after-sale service to help with any problems. With the release of Arknights Endfield, we can see that the price of the most expensive top-up is $70. But on Lootbar, you can find the $70 pack for a little over $53. This is a discount of almost 24%, making top-ups that much more affordable. Adding to that, they have good reviews on Trustpilot and a detailed self-top-up process. So if you're considering buying premium currency for your favorite games, use my link in the description to sign up for Lootbar. As always, remember to stay safe and spend responsibly. Back to the video.
In the first week of Endfield, the first three things you will want to be familiar with are the AIC, your dailies, and what team you'll be starting off with. I've covered the AIC and daily routine in other videos, so let's talk specifically about the team you should start off with. The most important thing about your starting team is that you should be building out synergistic characters with a team in mind as an end goal. It doesn't have to be the entire team, it could just be the core 3 characters or some of the universal supports in the game. Whether you are interested in building a physical or arts-based team is up to you, but you'll likely want to structure your first team around the standard 6-star character that you get from the beginner banner or a limited character that you plan to summon for later on. When you have your team in mind, the emphasis should be to only level up skills and talent nodes that have the most impact. So this is going to be like every other gacha game. You're going to want to prioritize your DPS and the abilities from any support that amplify that DPS's damage. For example, if you are building a team with Last Rite and Shaihi, maxing out Last Rite's build comes first, followed by Shaihi's ultimate and/or battle skill. These priorities help you clear the most content as early as possible, so if you haven't been exposed to gacha game min-maxing before, consider yourself warned before we're hit with actually difficult limited-time content. Next, I wanted to go over some pro tips for the early game. First, you're going to want to focus on the main story to unlock all the different features of the game. The earlier you unlock systems like the AIC and daily systems, the more rewards you will be able to start accruing, because the resources in this game ramp up as you progress and while you're offline. Make sure you actually do some exploration during your main story run as well, because the chests and orbs actually give you a substantial amount of experience and materials early on to help level up your characters. Another pro tip is to avoid leveling up duplicate weapons if you're planning to use them as potential material. It may seem like a good idea early on to have temporarily better weapons on your team, but unlike using leveled weapons to level up other weapons, you will lose all the experience of a weapon when it's used as potential material. I know this can seem obvious in retrospect, but I remember Endfield had a tooltip at some point that talked about weapon XP being transferable when you use it to level, and you might have thought that the no wasted experience extends to increasing weapon potential as well. Pro tip number 3. When you clear domains, you don't have to claim the reward for it to unlock the next difficulty. So the game will prevent you from clearing higher difficulties until you've cleared the stage before. But you don't actually have to claim the reward. So if you want to be extra energy or sanity efficient, clear the stage, leave without claiming, and then clear the next stage until you've reached the maximum rewards you're able to get with your current progression. The same does not apply for RE crisis stages, so make sure to claim those first-time rewards when it doesn't say you have to use sanity.
And for pro tip number 4, I just wanted to mention that you should be adding a bunch of people as friends because in Endfield, the more friends you have, the more rewards you can get. And it ranges from being able to share clues and getting a ton of credits to getting better odds for goods exchanges, which will increase your stock bill supply. Again, my daily routine video covers some of these topics, so I won't be diving further into them. But after your first week, if you've played consistently, the chances are that you're already in the mid-game. And here, things can feel a little more confusing. One of the big questions is where you should be spending sanity to optimize your progression. And here, one of the biggest traps is the energy alluviums. They give essences, and even though essences are critical for your weapons, unless you've spent money on the game, you probably don't have your 2 teams on their account yet with the weapons that they will use. And because the rolls for the energy alluviums are so random, I would avoid farming these entirely until you've pulled for more characters and weapons so that you know what you'll be using. I also wouldn't be farming these without engraving permits. So engraving permits are introduced to help lock down the rewards to certain stats. But even then, I find it to be too random unless you have multiple weapons that are able to utilize more of the essence drops. By the way, engraving permits can be found at the stock redistribution centers, and you should prioritize buying the ones that have a timer. But I wouldn't worry about this until you've maxed out your stock bill income, which is why this is a mid-game consideration. Essentially, how essences work is that you have to roll the correct stat 3 times to match what your weapon needs in order for them to be useful. So unless you already have a list of weapons and characters to build, I would hold off on energy alluviums for the moment. Another item you can find in the stock redistribution store is the artificing catalysts. So at some point in the main story, there's a tutorial with a fine young lady who teaches what artificing is and how to perform them. In summary, you sacrifice gear to make other gear stronger through an RNG system, and it's incredibly similar to essence etching. But again, I would ignore both of these systems and just use sanity to build out your characters and weapon levels until you reach late game, because there are diminishing returns on RNG upgrades, and we don't have infinite stock bills to buy these more premium upgrades, especially towards the mid-game. A pro tip for mid-game is to level up your characters across the board, at least until you can unlock their first base skill to help out with the AFK farming jobs in the Dijang. You may have noticed that different cabins on the Dijang have different operators that specialize in that work, so I would recommend going through your list of operators and having them paired up in a way where they can amplify each other's work. The operator I like the most is Ardelia, because her base skills are all for the reception room, and she's a strong support unit that is given to us for free. So if you haven't already built her, just spend your sanity leveling her and unlocking her base skills. Credits give you a decent number of rewards on a daily basis, and the reception room is one of the best sources of it outside of friends and depot jobs. That leads us to the late game, and if you have been playing this game religiously, this is probably the stage that many of you are starting to reach. At this point, if you've already built out your characters efficiently, it does start to make sense to start maxing out your characters and explore gear artificing. I would still avoid alluviums until you have a list of weapons that you know can utilize all the drops from alluviums, but you will also need fodder material for essence etching, so it's not the worst thing to start farming alluviums even with just a few weapons that fit the bill. But I would really leave the RNG systems for last, so make sure that you've completed the steps before. And if you're already at the point where you're maxing out your essence etching, you're even farther ahead than I am, and there's really not much power scaling left. So congratulations, and you should probably have been the one to make a guide for me. And so that concludes my progression tips in Arknights Endfield. Hopefully, all of your summons have been going swimmingly because I summoned 3 6-star weapons the other day, and I am all set for the next limited banners. I've also been slowly finishing out the side quests for this game, and I can't wait for new characters to come out. But as always, if you're interested in more Endfield content, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.